Hey there guys, welcome back to AFC Game by Game. It feels like absolutely forever since I've done one of these. It's my preview for the opening game of the season, Arsenal facing Manchester City at the Emirates Stadium. A game that honestly I am so excited for. I'm so nervous for it, but I'm honestly so excited for it. I haven't looked forward to an Arsenal game this much since probably the FA Cup final in 2017. I'm filled with optimism after what was a dreary, damp, miserable season towards the end of it last year. I'm really looking forward to this one. Our new man at the helm in Unai Emery hopefully will get a good result against the Premier League champions, but the reality is, and it's a harsh reality, but we could be looking at 0 points from our opening two games. Now, I don't want to go into this video on a negative spin, but we've got Manchester City at home, Chelsea away. It couldn't be a more difficult start for the new manager, but I'm going to this season with a revived sense of optimism. Now, of course, there is a lot of speculation around the club at the minute, given what's going on with Stan Kroenke having bought out Alisher Usmanov. He now owns 100% of the club, which is, of course, it is concerning. Let's be honest there. It is quite worrying that Stan Kroenke is now the majority shareholder at Arsenal. He owns the entirety of the club. He has the power to now take us private. It's a worrying time, but we can't let that distract us from the football. That's certainly something I don't want glossing over the game on Sunday. It's really vital that we get behind the players, we get behind the manager, and hopefully we come out of the game with a good result. A point from this game would be absolutely fantastic. A good performance as well along with that would be even better. I won't lie, I am a little bit nervous given the players that we've got. I still think that we could have done a bit more recruitment this window. As I'm recording this, there are still 2 hours left of the transfer window, so if something happens then, you know, there could be an update in that sense. But at the minute we're going into this game with what we've currently got, and it's the defence that really does worry me, and I think that goes for most Arsenal fans. We're looking light in defence, if we're being honest. We've got Socrates, we've got Holding, we've got Mavropanos, we've got Koscielny who's out injured, and of course we've got Shkodran Mustafi. So it's not the most convincing, and it's a very fragile defence. If we get a couple of injuries, then you're putting a huge reliance on someone like Mavropanos and Rob Holding, who are still in their early 20s. So it's not ideal, it's not a great situation to be in, and with Callum Chambers going to Fulham, that move is looking all the more perplexing, and it's, you know, it's a little bit concerning if we are to get a few injuries down the line, given that we are so light in that department. We also haven't brought in a wide man, and I think that adds a lot of pressure to someone like Reiss Nelson, who is the only out-and-out winger at the club now, I believe, which is quite worrying as well, considering that we don't have much width in the team. We're now relying on players like Bellerin, Kolasinac when he returns in October, which, you know, is a massive blow as well. So going forward, looking wise, we haven't got many options. We're putting Aubameyang out left, it would seem. So we're, you know, shoehorning him into the team. So it's, you know, these are all not the best of things to go into the video with. I don't want to focus too much on the negatives. It's the positives that I really want to shine a light on. But it is a very difficult game at home against Man City. If you saw how they played in the Community Shield, then you know exactly what they're all about. Nothing has changed since last season. They've brought in Riyad Mahrez, but apart from that, their team is practically identical. They've got a very strong defence, an excellent midfield. Let's be honest, it's sensational. And going forward, they've got some of the best options in world football. Jesus, Aguero, Sane, Sterling, Mahrez now. It's sensational, really. It's scintillating football that they play at times. Now, we can't have a repeat of what they did to us last season, beating us 3 times. It can't happen again. And in the way it did when we played them at home last season, I mean, that game was effectively a dead rubber. It didn't really mean a lot to us at that point, and we were going through such an awful patch. But the League Cup final, the way we lost, that utterly humiliating. We can't let them do the same on our own turf, especially for Emery's first game. It is realistic that we could lose this game, but I want to see Arsenal put in a good performance, and I want to see that defence convince me in a way that it hasn't done throughout pre-season. I do have my worries about Socrates and Mustafi at the back. I think that's going to be the solid certified partnership going into the season. That's the only realistic partnership that I can see anyway. I do want to see Holding and Mavropanos come through, but it's just not a realistic expectation to say that these guys in their early 20s are going to break into the first team immediately. Rob Holding, we know what he can do when he's on form, but you know, it's just, as I say, it's not realistic to put so much pressure on them when we've got more senior defenders ahead of them in Socrates and Mustafi. So I worry about their height. I worry about if they're going to gel together. I worry that Socrates wasn't the answer in terms of defence, but we'll see how it all plays out. I've got to put faith in these guys in this first game, and I want to see them do well. Now, in terms of the team that Arsenal should play, this one's been heavily debated, of course, throughout pre-season. We've seen a lot of players come into the limelight. Guendouzi, Emil Smith-Rowe, but Guendouzi's the one in particular I think a lot of Arsenal fans, including myself, a few weeks ago was saying there's no doubts that we should be playing him against Manchester City. Having had a couple of weeks to review that, I think to put a 19-year-old kid in against the Premier League champions. Even though he's good enough, and I firmly believe in the saying that if you're good enough, you're old enough, I think it is probably just a bit too much too soon. I think we need that defensive stability, so I want to see Torreira come in. Given that he wasn't, overly convincing in his first game, he's just come back from his holidays, there's no problems with that whatsoever. But given what he did for Uruguay in the World Cup, if he can replicate that for Arsenal, he'll be absolutely sensational in this game, you would hope. Hopefully keeping players like Kevin De Bruyne, David Silva quiet, and being that great man in front of the back four, which we need him to be. Anyway, I asked you guys to tweet me your team lineups. Thanks to everyone that tweeted in. 25 responses in the end, which is more than I could possibly imagine. I'll feature them all on the left-hand side here. Apologies that I'm not going to read every single one out. I don't want this video to be a whole segment on team lineups. But getting into the ones that you tweeted me, these are my three favourites. First one in from @Marcazette. 4-2-3-1, Leno, Bellerin, Mustafi, Socrates, Maitland-Niles, Torreira, Ramsey, Aubameyang, Ozil, Mkhitaryan and Lacazette. Next one from @Ardian Guna, Cech, Lichtsteiner, Papa, I'm guessing that's Socrates, Mustafi, Maitland-Niles, Xhaka, Guendouzi, Nelson, Ozil, Mkhitaryan and Aubameyang. And final one from Agia, Leno, Lichtsteiner, Mustafi, Socrates, Maitland-Niles, Torreira, Guendouzi, Mkhitaryan, Ozil, Aubameyang and Lacazette. Some really interesting lineups there, especially the one including Reiss Nelson. I think it's completely unrealistic to say that he's going to start this game, but it does show how reliant we are on a player like him, and we could be relying on him a bit later on in the season because of the lack of width for Arsenal. I think Mkhitaryan is going to make a starting berth on that right-hand side of the pitch. That's where he had that Player of the Season award at Borussia Dortmund, and with him and Aubameyang in the team, they should link up perfectly in the way that they did last season towards the end of it anyway. The team that I'd go with is one that's taken me an awfully long time to choose. Between the sticks, I think it's got to be Petr Cech. Throughout pre-season, he hasn't really put a foot wrong. Leno's been convincing as well, but for me, Cech was the #1 for Arsenal last season, and he's going to be the #1 in this game as well for me. I think he hasn't really done anything to say that he should be pushed out of the team just yet. I think Leno's certainly got to earn that #1 spot, and whilst Cech is still #1 at Arsenal, quite literally this season, I'll be putting him in that starting berth in the goalkeeping position. Right back, I'm going to put in Hector Bellerin. He hasn't been convincing throughout pre-season, let's be brutally honest, but I think he's got the pace that we need in this game to deal with the players such as Sterling, such as Sane, such as Jesus. So I think we've got to put him in there. Has to be on the ball at the defensive side of his game. Going forward, we know what he can offer, but defensively, that's where he's really been brought into question. The way he was undone by Hudson-Odoi for Chelsea not too long ago, I mean, that's concerning. I mean, you don't want that to be happening in this game. Defensively, in the centre-back partnership role, it's going to be Mustafi and Socrates, as I mentioned earlier. They're the only two that are standing out to me. And no, I'm certainly not convinced by them at the minute just yet, but I've got to put a lot of faith in them. As I say, there's a lack of height there. There could be a lack of understanding, but it could be a partnership that could well work for Arsenal this season. Hopefully it will. Hopefully they can prove my doubts wrong in this game, so I'm putting a lot of trust in them. And certainly Emery's done the same by making them Arsenal's two first-choice centre-backs this season. At left-back, he picks himself. It's Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Monreal is currently injured. Kolasinac the same as well. He's out for 8 to 10 weeks, which is a real blow. So Maitland-Niles, he's got the athleticism. I want to see him play midfield this season, but this is a great opportunity for him to make a claim at left-back. He's got the pace, he's got the power to do it. Has he got the defensive understanding? He was undone a couple of times last season when he played at left-back, so we'll be interested to see how he does. He's got to do well if we're going to keep a clean sheet, which is going to be a big ask for this defence. But I'm excited to see how he does, and it's good to have an English player in the team, a young one as well. Should be a massive season for Maitland-Niles. I'm really excited to see him play against the Premier League champions on the opening day of the season. Moving into midfield, as I say, it's going to be Torreira covering the back four. Pretty self-explanatory, did really well for Uruguay in this role, and I think he's got to be playing there for Arsenal in the opening game. Just ahead of him, if he's fit, Aaron Ramsey. Don't quite know yet what his fitness situation is. Hopefully he'll have signed a contract by the opening day. And I think he's going to be vital in that box-to-box midfield role with the power, with the athleticism. Hopefully Torreira feeds the ball into him. He brings it forward, plays it into the likes of Mkhitaryan, Aubameyang, Mesut Ozil. Just ahead of Ramsey, it's going to be Mesut Ozil playing in that number 10 role. So I've gone with a sort of 4-3-3. I don't really know what formation he's going to play. I don't think it'll be a 4-2-3-1. I think it'll be a very fluid team that will change formations throughout the course of the game. It could be chirped up at some points. It could be a 4-3-3. It could drop back into a more defensive formation throughout the course of the game. Emery hasn't really had a set formation throughout the pre-season, so it's very hard for me to call it. But as I say, a 4-3-3, Mesut Ozil in the number 10 role. Don't really need to explain why he's playing there. He should have a big season, coming up to 30 years old. Massive game for him, and with the players in front of him that I'm going with, obviously Mkhitaryan on the right-hand side, Aubameyang through the middle, Aubameyang on the left, sorry, and Lacazette through the middle. It's the most exciting front four I've seen at Arsenal in quite some time. A massive game for Aubameyang, and for Mkhitaryan as well. As I say, they've got to be covering their fullbacks. It's going to be tough for them, given that they are such attacking players, Aubameyang especially, to have him do defensive duties when he is pretty much an out-and-out centre-forward is going to be difficult. But he performed very well on the left-hand side for me throughout pre-season, so I'll be playing him there. I'll be playing Lacazette as well. I think in this game, you've got to be playing your best players. At home, you've got to be looking to score. And when we've got goals in this team through those two players, it's a no-brainer for me that they've both got to start. The other option on that left-hand side, I guess, would be someone like Alex Iwobi. I don't want him to start this game, if I'm being honest. I think he's done well throughout pre-season, and I certainly think he's got a point to prove at Arsenal. But if it's a choice between Aubameyang and Alex Iwobi playing at home in a game where we need to make a statement, where I want to see us play attacking football, it's a no-brainer that Aubameyang plays. Of course, it's tough to leave out a player like Granit Xhaka as well, but we've got a lot of options in midfield now, and someone is going to get sacrificed at some point. You can't play them all. Maybe away from home, we can look to play Torreira, Xhaka, Ramsey all at the same time, but it's just not something at this moment in time that is realistic. But Arsenal have got options off the bench in this game. It's an exciting team for me. Hopefully we go out and get a result. I was going to say a win, but let's be honest, it is going to be really, really difficult. You don't need me to talk too much about Manchester City. You know what threat they provide. You know how difficult this game is going to be. I can't wait to be back at the Emirates on Sunday to see a team that has changed, to see a team that has progressed. That's what I'm most looking forward to. I want to see what Emery is going to instill in these Arsenal players, and I want to go into this season believing that this Arsenal is different from the Arsenal that I've seen over the past 10 years. I'm really looking forward to this game. My prediction, 2-1 to Arsenal. I'm going to be optimistic. Get your score predictions, your team lineups, all of that in the comments box below. Drop a like on this video. Let's get the business done Sunday, and I'll speak to you very, very soon. See you later, guys.